We're in an historic drought, and that demands unprecedented action. It's for that reason that I'm issuing an executive order mandating substantial water reduction across our state. As Californians, we have to pull together and save water in every way we can. Now we are embarked upon an experiment that no one has ever tried, ever, in the history of mankind. And that is 38 million people with 32 million vehicles living at the level of comfort that we all strive to attain.
California is currently in the midst of the driest 5 years since record-keeping began in 1895. Some climate researchers believe California could be in the worst drought of the last 500 years.
Look, for over 10,000 years, some people would say for 20,000 years, people lived in California. But the number of those people were never more than 300 or 400,000, as far as we know. They lived much simpler. They were able to move when drought occurred or fires occurred. They could cope.
At less than a third of capacity, the San Luis Reservoir is at its lowest January level in 5 years. To give some perspective on just how low water levels are right now, you can see where the reservoir is at behind me. It's low. But as I hike up here, all this land is supposed to be underwater. And continuing this trek up the hill, I would still be underwater if the reservoir was completely full. It isn't until here that I reach the first island. All this land behind me, that would be underwater.
As the predictions are out for a wet fall and winter, but there's no guarantee that will do much for the drought.
This will be one of the strongest El Niños on record, and at this time it is stronger than it was back in 1997. This is bottom line. This will not end our 4-year drought. We would need at least 1.5 to 3 times the annual rainfall to balance the 4-year drought deficit in Southern California.
One major concern is agriculture.
During the course of the drought, we've heard a lot of people discussing the economy of agriculture in California, and they're attributing only 2% of California's economy to agriculture. However, that is the farm gate value, and a farm gate value means the raw materials coming off the farm. It doesn't have anything to do with the next steps and what happens to the products. So agriculture includes the raw materials, of course, then the trucking industry, the food processing industry, the restaurant industry. And those things are all dependent, all these things that are dependent on agriculture in California and the jobs associated with it. So the entire industry is probably 17 to 18% of the economy, depending on the year, depending on who's counting and that sort of thing. So it's huge. And some parts of the state, it's everything. Some communities in the state, particularly in Central Valley. So.
Agriculture is definitely a major concern. But what about us consumers? Drinking water, showers, laundry, forget about watering your lawn. 26 million people use a lot of water.
With Governor Jerry Brown's executive order of a 25% reduction in water use statewide, many Californians have noticed new signs around their neighborhoods, as it's now a violation to water grass on city road medians. Californians are being urged to save 5 gallons of water per person per day. The following uses of water are now considered violations of this executive order.
without question, it will change agriculture in California. We will grow crops that require less water. We will grow them in ways that are far more efficient as much as we possibly can. There's no question. If you have to up your technology to be more efficient, then yes, it'll cost more. We'll be growing higher cash materials, for sure. You know, we won't be able to grow certain things in California. So it'll change. It'll definitely change if we don't get some water. And honestly, it's going to change anyway because this has been a really big wake-up call.
So what do? I mean, human life depends upon water. California is the most populated state in the U.S. California needs water, and bad. Let's talk about one possible solution. If you think about it, California has all the water it could possibly need at its proverbial front door. What am I talking about? The single largest body of water in the world, the Pacific Ocean. California contains 840 miles of coastline next to the Pacific Ocean, the largest ocean on the planet. 187 quintillion gallons of water. I know what you're saying. Wait, the ocean? That's salt water. You can't drink salt water. Exactly. Human beings can survive on drinking salt water. You can't shower with it, wash your clothes, water crops with it. Obviously, it's the salt content that makes the seawater unusable for general use. If there was only a way to use this limitless resource of the Pacific Ocean to help get California through this crisis, well, there is. What are we talking about? It's desalinization. What is desalinization? It simply means to remove the salt from the seawater, converting it to fresh water. How do we do this? It's a complex process, but we'll do our best to explain it. Seawater is drawn into intake tubes in the ocean and then pumped through an advanced filtration system. It's first run through what are called multimedia filters, which contain layers of rock, like anthracite, sand, and small pebbles. As water filters through these natural elements, items like twigs and seaweed are filtered out. Next, the water is filtered through cartridge filters, removing more solid particles like fine sand and clay. Then, at a high pressure of over 1000 psi, the water is pushed through tubes of interlocked membranes. This forcing process separates the salt from the water, forcing the salt out and the water in. The fresh water is then pumped out into storage tanks for human usage. The largest desalination plant in California will open in 2016 in Carlsbad. Many other countries are already using desalination plants to great degrees, including Saudi Arabia and Australia. However, this process is not without controversy.
If you look in the Mideast, most of the countries in the Mideast have desalination plants, and they generate quite a lot of their water. They also have a lot of power available to them, and it's very power consuming. So there's like no free lunch here, right? So I think it's a great idea, and it's getting to the point where the cost of water from a desal plant is closer and closer to the cost of purchasing water from the district. If it's $2,000 an acre foot, and we're paying $1,700 for regular water coming from our water district, it's very close.
Freshwater conservation is still critical, but in the meantime, California continues to be the most populated state in America. Conservation alone may not be enough.
Desalinization is one potential solution for California's future.